Welcome to Detailing with Mark. Now, why am I walking through my backyard right now? Well, the reason is I've been conducting a 1.5-year test of a ceramic coating back here. It's my test lab, if you will. And in a few seconds, I'm going to show you the results. Should be exciting, so stick around. Alrighty, this way to the lab, please. Excuse the messiness of the yard. So, nothing super sexy here, but this is where I've had a hood for a 1.5 years. So let's talk about what's happened in this 1.5 years, and we're gonna take a detailed look at this hood and see how it's held up. Is the ceramic coating still there? I have no idea. So a little bit about the atmosphere here. So you can see that the hood is exposed to all the elements here. If we go up, it gets plenty of sun. Gets a few hours of sun per day. It gets rain, it gets wind, and as you can see, flowers. There's a very nice tree there, and some of the petals have gotten on the hood. So a 1.5 years ago, I clay barred this hood, polished it, sprayed it with isopropyl alcohol, wiped it down, and then I put an application of cQuartz UK 3.0 on the hood. Just one application. I did not do 2 coats, just 1 coat. So the question, how does cQuartz UK 3.0 hold up outdoors in the elements with no washing? This hood has never been washed. I literally coated it, let it cure for a few days in the garage, and stuck it out here. This thing has been here for a 1.5 years, and today we're going to find out, is the coating still there? How is it protecting? Is it 100%, 75%, 50%, 0? I have no idea. I have not touched this hood since I put it here a 1.5 years ago, so I'm as curious as you are to see what the results are. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's inspect the hood here. So what do we see? So first of all, it's dirty. It's not that dirty though, honestly. I check this thing often, and it really it's actually pretty clean for how long it's been out here. So a couple things here before I talk about the results. As I said, when I paint protect anything, not only do I prep the surface properly, but I let it cure for days. This hood specifically, so I applied the cQuartz UK 3.0. I let it cure in the garage for 1 week before I put it outside. So maximum cure time, just to give the product absolute best chance of adhering and bonding. I'm hoping that's going to serve us well and give us some lasting results. I've seen many detail channels out there do long-term tests on this product. Scott H is a well-known channel that does product tests on hoods. He's seen 2 years plus off of this product, and I'm hoping for something similar. Now, a little bit about the weather here. So again, let's take a step back here. It is the middle of February. It's a beautiful sunny day. It's about 62 degrees today. So obviously in California, it's not inclement weather. So where I live in the Bay Area, this is the weather pattern. From May to November, it's warm and gets extremely hot in the summertime, 100 degrees plus easily. Very dusty. The sun is blazing 24/7. So that's the summer. November through April, we start to get some rain. It's much cooler here, cloudy sometimes, so the winters are still mild by most standards. However, the hood is out here, it's getting rained on, it's getting the sun beating down on it, extreme heat, dust, so, you know, it's enduring a decent amount of punishment. Nothing like you're going to get on the East Coast, though, with snow and ice and hail and so forth. But, you know, California is a good place to own a car because the weather is very, very mild on cars, and that's just a wonderful thing. So another thing I'll say here is one of the reasons this hood looks so clean is the so-called self-cleaning properties of ceramic coating. So the bond of the coating is very strong, and the beading and the sheeting action of the water is so good that literally when water hits it, it pretty much washes off most of the dirt and dust that's on there, which is wonderful. Obviously, you can see some things have stuck on today, but generally speaking, after a rainstorm, this hood is pretty clean. So the self-cleaning properties, there's definitely something to that. You also notice the angle I have the hood. So I'm pretty scientific. I like to think of every variable that's going to impact the test. So I think I did the product a few favors here. I've got it mounted kind of at a roughly 45-degree angle. This lets rainwater run off really well and carry the dirt and dust away. This does not simulate, say, an actual hood on the car, which would be flat. When the hood is on an actual car and it's flat, there's way less sheeting action because it's a horizontal surface, obviously, so the dirt is going to stay on there more often than not. So having the hood like this obviously gives the product the ability to sheet the dirt and dust off a lot more easily. The reason I didn't put it face down as it would be in a car is I just don't have the room back here. If it's face down, I can't even really walk through here, and that would just be a nuisance. So I've got a kind of, 45-degree angle, which I thought was a decent enough test for this purpose. So I'm going to take this hood out in the front of my house. We're going to wash it off with water, soap it and wash it, and then wash it again with water and kind of see how it looks. But let's zoom in and just take a look at the hood and see how it looks here. So you can see, first of all, the gloss is still pretty good. I'll pull back a bit, but it's still pretty glossy, to be honest with you. And as I zoom in here, I mean, let's take a look. I'm just going to go with my finger like this a few times. I mean, there's almost no dirt on my finger. I can feel it a little bit, but I think this has done an exceptional job of protecting the paint. I really do. I'm impressed. Again, cQuartz claims this coating about 2 years or so. I don't doubt that at all. Now, we're going to see if the coating is actually still on there when we wash it and soap it and wash it again. We can see the beading and the sheeting of the water and what's still actually protecting the hood. But just the finger test here shows us that dirt is really not sitting on this car. I mean, there's a little bit and a couple little petals here, flower petals, but those come right off, obviously. So I would say it this way. I have many of my cars coated with cQuartz UK 3.0. I love it when it rains. I know most detailers would never say that, but with a ceramic coating, when it rains, the rainwater, which is pure, right? It doesn't contain a lot of minerals and calcium and so forth. So as long as your car is not super dirty, if it's ceramic coated, the rain will do you a favor and carry most of the dirt away, honestly. Our SUV is coated with cQuartz, and when we get a heavy rain, it looks like almost like I just washed it, which is pretty fantastic. I have it on the wheels as well. I've generally been really happy with the product, but I'm really curious to see, once we wash this down, how much protection is left, because this is a real world test, this thing sitting out here. I'm really excited, so let's get to it. So the hood is in the front yard now. Got a little more sunlight, a little more daylight to kind of illuminate the results here. It's kind of the same. It's pretty shiny. It looks really good, as I showed you before. I mean, I can wipe my whole hand on this, and you probably can't even see the dirt. I can feel it. There's dust and a bit of a light dirt layer, but it's pretty minimal. I mean, this thing looks generally pretty good. So yeah, let's wash it down and see what it looks like afterwards. I'm really curious to see the water beading and sheeting properties a year and a half into the test. Let's get to it. Okay, looking pretty good. So what just happened? So first of all, the water sheeted off pretty well. I think it's a little bit slower than it was when I first put it on, and we're going to look at the initial application test from a year and a half ago in just a minute. A lot of the water sheeted off, which is awesome. The beads that are left, they're not as numerous or tight as they were when I first applied it, but they still look really good. There's a lot of beading. Here, and I think the sheeting action was still really good. Let's take a couple more specific looks here. Yeah, I mean, you can see over here, it sheets off pretty well. It takes a couple seconds. So the sheeting, I think, has slowed down, but again, we haven't even washed this thing with soap yet and then re-rinsed it off. So let's not jump to any conclusions, but based on what I'm seeing here, and again, let's see the dirt test. A lot of people will say that if your car is ceramic coated, it doesn't get dirty that often, and I think we see that as the case here. I mean, based on what we're seeing, you could have this panel sitting outside for a year and a half, spray it off with water, wipe it with a towel, and it probably is going to look 90-95% clean. That's pretty amazing that you don't even need to actually soap wash the vehicle. I think that's pretty fantastic. But let's soap this down, rinse it off, and then see how much of the coating is left and if it changed the sheeting or the beading patterns at all. So let's get to it. All right, let's soap her down here. Got some nice lathery suds going here. Get the other side. If you're wondering what soap I use Ammo Foam. Okay, so a pretty thorough soaping down here with my lamb's wool wash mitt. Let's let it dwell for a second there, rinse it off, and see how we're looking. Okay, let's wash her down. So we see more of the same before the soap, which is not a ton of beading, but there's still pretty decent beads here. A lot of small beads. Again, when I did this the first time, there was millions of beads very tightly grouped together. You can see here that there's beads, but they're kind of sparsely populated. They're spaced out. I do think the water sheeting is still pretty solid. Let's take a couple more little tests here and take a look. Yeah, I mean, the sheeting is maybe a little bit slower than it was, but it's still pretty quick. I mean, very, very little water is, and you can see the drops continuing to run off here. There's very little water remaining on this hood. I think the sheeting is excellent. Yeah, I mean, we'll look back at the original video, but, you know, certainly this was better when the original video was done, but for a year and a half, I'm really impressed. I mean, look at this area over here. There's almost no water at all. Listen to that. I can literally rub my finger on it. It's bone dry. This section has done really well. The middle section, it's kind of funny. This section sheets really well. This has a lot of water still on it, but it's pretty well beaded. And then going over here, the middle also sheeted incredibly well. Look at that. There's a lot of dry areas here. And then over here we have a mix of the water sheeting off and then some beads left. But, you know, I mean, all in all, I think this is performing great. I would definitely not call this anywhere close to failed. I think it's protecting well. It's sheeting the water off, which again is why ceramic coatings are so great. Those self-cleaning properties. The water just sheets itself off and you're left with almost a dry surface, which is pretty fantastic as far as reducing your drying time. So again, the product I use is cQuartz UK 3.0. The original cQuartz I think was great. I never used it personally, but 3.0 is obviously the latest and greatest version. I'm really happy with it. I think it was about $65 a bottle. One bottle will do a couple cars. I think the stuff is fantastic. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not getting paid anything by anybody to say this. cQuartz UK 3.0 is really the first ceramic coating I put to the test. The reason I didn't try a dozen of them is I trust Pan the Organizer a lot. He has a great detailing channel. If you haven't checked him out, check him out. But he's done a lot of tests over the years, and he highly recommended cQuartz UK 3.0. That was good enough for me. So in my testing and use on my cars, I found it to be just as he said. It's really durable, really fantastic. And the 3.0 version is also easier to apply and remove than the earlier versions. Ceramic coatings can be tough, way tougher than wax to remove. You got to remove them just at the right flash time, and you know, you'll get used to it. But I think it's easy on, pretty easy off, and I mean, you can see the results here. This is pretty spectacular. Once again, I do myself every favor by prepping the surface well so that the ceramic coating adheres and bonds well. And then once the coating's been applied, as I said before, I let this cure in my garage for 1 week just to make sure it bonded and then no water touched it and affected the bonding process. So, I think there's something to proper surface prep and also proper cure time. I think cQuartz recommends about 12 to 24 hours cure time. I went way beyond that, obviously. I don't think you can go wrong. Certainly, what I did is not always practical, right? If you want to apply these during the winter months and you don't have a garage to put your car in, so be it. You know, I think that's where a lot of the variations and results on any car product, especially ceramic coatings, comes from is how well was the surface prepped and how long, what was the temperature when the ceramic coating was applied, was it removed at the proper time, and most importantly, did it get the proper time to cure and the proper temperature? So tons of variables there depending on where you live. Obviously, you can't just wait all year for a sunny summer day and a garage for a week to apply this. So you got to do it when you got to do it, and the results may vary because of that. So in summary, as you can probably tell, I'm really happy with this stuff. The durability is fantastic. I really can't ask for too much more than a year and a half. Continued protection, I just think that's wonderful. And it's even extremely slick to the touch still, which is pretty nice. You can still feel the coating on there. Okay, so I dropped the hood so we can take another view at how the product is reacting. This obviously would simulate your hood sitting flat on your car. Again, I think we see good results here. As with the upright hood, we don't see as tight beading and groupings as we did when it was new, but the water sheeting still is doing a pretty good job. When the hood is flat, obviously, there's less opportunities for water to actually run off it because gravity can't affect it as much. But again, you can see, just as when the hood was upright, some of these areas are completely dry. So the sheeting is pretty good. For a year and a half, I think this is pretty acceptable. So one cool thing you can do when your car is ceramic coated is what's called drying it with water. So you can see there's quite a bit of water beads still left on here. You disconnect the pressure washer and you just run a very gentle hose stream over it and it will essentially dry the hood. So let's check it out. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty darn cool. So as you can see, it's not completely dry, but there's a few beads left, but it dries pretty much the entire car. Again, the wonders of a ceramic coating and the water sheeting just carries everything away. There's very, very little drying left to do with a ceramic coating, which is wonderful because that's where a lot of the time goes when you're washing and detailing a car. I always get a kick out of that. I think it's pretty amazing that you can almost dry the hood. I mean, look at this. It's almost completely dry just by running a gentle stream of water over it. So one of the many benefits of having a ceramic coating. As you can tell, I'm definitely sold on these things. I just love the water sheeting properties. It's just fantastic. It's a lot of extra work versus just putting on the wax, but as you can see, I do think it's worth it, especially if you park your car outdoors. Having a ceramic coating greatly reduces the wash cycles of your car. You just have to do a lot less maintenance washes, which is great. I mean, we're all incredibly busy. It's always great to save time where we can. So thanks for watching. I hope you found the video helpful. If so, I'd love a thumbs up. Always appreciate comments, and of course subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my future videos. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.